There, I'm Jimmy Vegas, and this is how to create a hyper-casual game in Unity, and welcome to episode 5. In this tutorial, we're going to do some more C# coding, and we're going to deal with some more UI in the way of buttons. Don't forget, click on the subscribe button and click that bell icon as well to stay up to date with every tutorial still to come in this series and everything else on game development on my channel. With that in mind, let's get to work. So up until this point, we have dealt with both C# coding and some UI. And there are different elements to how UI can work. For example, in the little intro there, I mentioned buttons. And the way this is going to be done is through something called buttons, which will allow us to click on the screen and essentially do what the button is programmed to do. So we're going to create some buttons, and then we're going to add some code to them so the buttons function as they should. So first and foremost, let's add some UI buttons in. So game object, let's go to UI, and let's go to button right there. Now, there are different ways of doing what we're trying to get to here, obviously, but I think it's down to how you want to portray your game. I mean, I'm doing this simplistically, but it's up to you if you want to go further than this and design your own, aesthetics and make it look prettier or whatever. It's entirely up to you. So a button simply is exactly that. It's a button that we can click on, or as the case may be for this, we can tap on. So the great thing about buttons is they work for clicking, and if you have it on a mobile device with a touch screen, they automatically adjust and can be used to touch or tap. So let's move this button into position down in the bottom left of the screen. So let's bring it down on the Y, and I'm going to adjust with the rect tool. So I'm going to move it across to about there, and then shrink to about there, and probably raise it up a little bit to about there. So I'm going to name this button now left catch. So right click in the hierarchy, rename left catch. So all that's going to do is when we press that button, it's going to turn this particular platform on, and it'll catch whatever orb is falling in that section of the screen. So let's take a look at what we can do with this particular UI element. So over here we can attach a UI image to it if we wanted to. For example, we could change it to whatever we wanted it to be that is currently built into Unity, and I guess it's entirely up to you how you want to use this. I am actually going to use the black UI that is attached to it. I kind of think that might be quite nice in this sense, but obviously you can change to whatever you want it to be here. There are quite a few different options. In older versions of Unity, I think it was only really restricted to what we have here. So it's nice to see we have these different elements here. So I'm going to go with this one, I think. I kind of like that one. So we can change the color here if we so need to. And you can see that changes basically the background, or rather the outline here. It's entirely up to you how you want to change the color. You can have it that way if you want to. If not, that's your prerogative. Materials, no point really adding a material onto this for its simplicity. The only other things that we should really play around with here is the normal color. So if we take that, we can see again, all it does is change this particular section. Same with the highlighted color. Once again, it won't actually do anything until it's highlighted. So again, I guess it's up to you. But what I might do is turn it completely black for highlighted. I'll show you how this works in just a moment. Pressed color. For reference, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the hexadecimal code so we can reset if we need to. But I'm actually going to have the pressed color as bright green, for example. And selected color, let's have this as, I don't know, bright blue. So we have a couple of different things here. So let's just quickly press play and see how this button reacts to different things. So you can see as I go over it and select it, it goes to the highlighted color, which is black. Now this won't matter too much when it comes to mobile devices, because highlighting, i.e. hovering over, is not something that we would do with the touchscreen. So that one's kind of relevant. However, let's press it and you can see it turned green and then blue. So the reason that's happened is because the press color, obviously we've pressed it, which turns it green, and then the selected color has turned it blue because that is the one that is selected. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep it with these colors, and I'm going to change the text inside it. Now, we did speak briefly about fonts, I think, last tutorial. So I think maybe next tutorial or tutorial after, we'll bring in a font to make this look a little bit better. But if you look at the button itself, it has a little arrow next to it. And beneath that is the text. And that is the text that it contained within the button. So, for example, let's change this to say, in capital letters, catch. And I am going to have that as bold. And let's have the font as... do you know what? I might actually have it as that one that is built in, possibly. And let's increase the font size to 24. And that looks okay. We might do a change in the size of this button at a later date, but for now, all we want to do is just function it as we would expect it to be. And let's set the color to bright white so we can actually see. Now let's press play and see how this looks. So if you could imagine, we're simulating touching this button now, catching. So we have that button in place. I'm happy with how that looks. Obviously, you need to take a bit more time, create it how you want it to look. There's no right or wrong. It's your game at the end of the day, and it's up to you how you want that to be designed. So let's take that left catch now. I'm going to hold Control, press D to duplicate, and then I'm going to move that into the middle of the screen there. So that is going to be our middle catch button. And then finally, let's duplicate once again and bring it to the right, and that's going to be our right catch button. So let's take this opportunity to rename. Middle, let's sort the caps out there. Middle catch and right catch. So once again, let's press play and we'll be able to see what's happening here now. So we can theoretically do that. There we go. So each of those buttons will click as normal. So how do we make it so as when we press that button, we're able to catch something? So I would like, realistically, a window of opportunity to catch the falling orbs, whether that be a second, 2 seconds, a millisecond. We'll work that out as we go along, but for now, let's get some code functioning so as when we press these buttons, these platforms appear. So let's turn off those 3 platforms. So let's take the right platform, middle platform, left platform, and turn it off up here. So untick, and they'll disappear. So this is what our screen should look like. So now let's create a script which allows us to function these buttons. So let's go to Scripts, UI, right click, Create, C# script. And we'll call this, we'll call it Catch Functions. And let's open that up in Visual Studio. And remembering, the script name has to be the same as the class name inside the script. So we have a little bit of experience with how this is working. And although we're going to do a couple of different things in this script, it's not going to be overly difficult. It's just going to be a bit more in depth, a bit more lines of code to actually get this functioning as intended. So when Visual Studio was loaded, we'll quickly go through what we need to have this script doing and how we're going to do it. So essentially, when this is loaded, there we go. So essentially, we're going to need 3 different variables, and that's going to be the left, middle, and right, platform, I should say. So they're going to be the 3 variables we need. And we're also going to have 3 separate functions to essentially turn on those 3 separate platforms. And remember when I said the methods that we have here, void start and void update, we can name them whatever we want. So for example, we could have a method that would be, let's say, void left platform. So we're going to do something like that. So let's get rid of void start and void update because we don't actually need these 2 methods in this script. This script is going to be a bit more customized than the last. We do, however, need those three variables. And if we take a look at score updater, remember when we declared it as a game object? We're going to do the same thing again. Although this game object is a UI element, we can actually use that game object to be anything, absolutely anything. So public game object, and we'll call this left platform. Similarly, we'll do public game object. I'll do mid platform just to kind of shorten it a little bit. So that's the middle platform. And finally, public game object right platform semicolon. Now, if you remember last time, if I go back to score updater, we added in this namespace at the top. Now, because we're not technically dealing with UI with this script, we don't need to have that namespace in there. Now, although this script will be part of the UI functionality, it's not dealing with UI itself, so we don't need to worry about adding it. So how do we make it so as those buttons know where to go and what to do within this script? Well, all we need to do is when we declare a method, we need to put the word public before the word void, and that way the button is able to recognize what is going on. So in this case, let's start with the left platform. Let's say public void left plat, just obviously short for platform. Then open close bracket, open curly bracket, and this particular method now is going to be exclusive to this left platform. And what do we want to do? We want to turn it on. So let's say left platform dot set active, and in brackets we put true. Obviously the inverse of that would be false. Now what we can do is we can copy those couple of lines there and let's paste them down below. And let's just call this next one mid plat, which means we can change mid platform dot set active true. And once again we can do the right one just by simply changing this to right and then saying right platform dot set active true. Now I'm going to save this script there, and we're going to test these couple of lines of code out before we move on and actually make it so as they turn themselves off when necessary. So let's go to back to Unity, and it'll just compile there for a second. And if we go to global scripts, remember we have that score updater, so let's add that catch function onto here. So let's drag and drop that script over here. Now what we need to do is make it so as everything works as intended. So let's declare those three variables over here. So right platform, let's place there. Middle platform, let's place there. And left platform, let's place there. Now let's make sure they are in the right place. So left, yep. Middle, yep. And right, yep. So they are in the right place. And now we just need to assign those buttons to the correct function or correct methods within this script. So let's go to left catch and let's scroll down, and you'll see on click list is empty. So this means what do we want to happen when we click or tap the button? Press plus and then drag and drop that global scripts onto this object here. And then click on no function, and then let's click on catch functions. And then you can see here that we have everything we need, so left plat. So this is now assigned this button to this method. So whenever we click the button, this method will run, which means it will turn the platform that we have determined to be left platform on, which is this. So let's do the same with middle catch. Let's click on plus. Let's drag global scripts over, click on no function, click on catch functions, and then mid platform. And finally, the exact same thing with the right platform. Global scripts, no function, catch functions, and right plat. Now I'm going to save my scene. And now I'm going to press play and check this out. Make sure it all works as intended. So let's get the middle platform on. Perfect. Now the right. Perfect. and now the left. Perfect. So next thing we need to do is for them to automatically turn off after however long. And the way we're going to do that is via something called a coroutine. Coroutine allows us to actually set a particular length of time until something else would occur. So let's start with the left platform. And the way we declare coroutine is we type the word I, a numerator, and then we can call that anything we want, much like we do with the methods up there. So let's call this left reset. Open close bracket, open curly bracket. And now we need to determine how long we want to leave those platforms on for. So let's say, for testing purposes, half a second. So we need to type the word yield, then return new, and now we need to tell it to wait for seconds. And in brackets, we now need to put however long that would be. So like I said, let's say half a second, so 0.5. Whenever we deal with decimal numbers, we have to put something called an F, short for float, after, because this, although it's a decimal, is known as a float. If we were dealing with whole numbers, integers, then we wouldn't need to put that, but it wouldn't matter if you did put that. It would still recognize it as a number. So like I say here, because we're dealing with a decimal number, we put the F for float. Close bracket, semicolon, and then after that we say left platform dot set active, and in brackets false, because we've turned it off. So where do we go from here? The exact same thing can be done for the other platforms. So let's take that coroutine, place it here. Let's say mid reset, and the exact same thing, half a second, and let's say mid platform dot set active false, and another one there to say right platform, which means we also need to change the coroutine name to right reset. So how do we run these coroutines after these particular methods? Well, inside the method, when we've set this left platform as active is true, we can say start coroutine, and in brackets the name of that coroutine. So in this case we want to left reset, so let's type left reset, then open close bracket again, and semicolon. So it should look just like this. And if you do have problems with this script, I will put it on my website. If you head over there, downloads and assets, and click on the Hypercasual game, and you can download it there from tutorial number 5. So let's copy that line of code. Let's place it in the mid plat. So we need mid reset, and then finally that will be right reset. So let's save that script. Now we don't need to worry about anything else in the inspector panel because everything will be set perfectly still and everything will function with this extra bit of code that we've put in. So let's press play and let's catch. Perfect. Catch, 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 catch. Now, there are going to be some hiccups to this. Obviously, if you want to play around, you'll probably find them out. But this is basically how we're going to get everything here to function. So I'm going to press play one more time. Let's try and catch the middle one. Caught it. Perfect. So everything does work normally, at least for now. So next tutorial, what we're going to deal with is we're going to go even more in depth with how these catch buttons are working. And I think we might actually add in some more C# coding to randomly generate these falling orbs, because that's ultimately what we're going to need. We're going to need many, many orbs to fall, and we're going to need to catch them as many as we can, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's what we're going to look at next tutorial. So until then, guys, thank you very much for watching.